Thanks for joining our mostly weekly Q&A and updates about what's happening in politics and in the Dáil. Please feel free to like and share and all that stuff, and please put in any questions. I'll do my best to reach them. Hello, Irish Starry. Hello. I'm good. Are we only Wexford-based candidates, someone asks. I am fairly certain we are. Our local election part of the PPP website, I think, is going live very, very shortly, as in the next 24 hours. So if you just check there, you will see a full list of candidates. What I wanted to talk about a couple of different things today, and then we'll deal with any questions that come in. One thing people may have seen, it's in the news this morning, it was agreed at the government's meeting, the cabinet meeting this morning, to go ahead with legislation, to draft legislation to get rid of what's called the triple lock. So this is an attempt to get rid of what is left of Irish neutrality. People probably understand, since Putin's invasion of Ukraine, there has been a real war on neutrality by the political establishment in this country, by the government. They are taking advantage of the invasion to try and get rid of neutrality. It started by saying very openly, we need to have a debate about neutrality. Neutrality is a policy matter. It can change at any time. You know, they want to just openly ditch neutrality. Then they met public opinion, which is resolutely in favour of public opinion, favour of neutrality, despite a big media campaign saying that we need to get rid of neutrality, we need to mature, we need to grow up, blah, blah, blah. So then they changed tack. They didn't change tack as in they've forgotten about their war on neutrality, not at all. They changed tack whereby now they're saying, oh, we're for neutrality, but they're actually just dismantling it, and all they're leaving is the word neutrality. So this is a crucial part, is getting rid of the triple lock. In reality, this is what remember the sham consultative forum packed with NATO heads, militarists, and that's what it was set up to do. I could have written the conclusion in advance. That's what I was going to recommend, is get rid of the triple lock, and that's what's now happening. So the triple lock is a thing to say, for more than 12 troops to be deployed abroad on a peacekeeping mission, that needs to be agreed in 3 different places. 1, the government. 2, the Dáil. 3, the mission itself, not the Irish participation, but the peacekeeping mission itself needs to be approved by the UN Security Council. They want to get rid of that 3rd one, which means basically it could be agreed by just the Dáil and the government, which basically means the government, because the Dáil is made up a majority of the government by definition. That's the government has a majority in the Dáil, otherwise it wouldn't be the government. So it means that the Irish government in future would be able to send troops on whatever military mission they want. There's a new invasion of Iraq or Afghanistan led by the US and NATO, or something similar again in future, they could send Irish troops abroad. Let's remember that the Irish government at that time facilitated the invasion of Iraq by allowing them to use Shannon Airport. Well, they could have facilitated by sending ordinary Irish men and women abroad to fight in a US war for oil and profit. That's what this is about. They like to say this is about getting rid of, hey Lisa, they like to say that this is about getting rid of a veto that Russia and China have on us. But that's not what it's about. I mean, Micheál Martin addressed this back in 2013. Micheál Martin, who is now leading the charge to get rid of it, he described the triple lock as at the core of our neutrality, and he rejected the idea that it gives a veto to Russia and China. And the irony is that they keep saying, we want to get rid of this triple lock so we can do more peacekeeping, but within the framework of the UN Charter. But within the framework of the UN Charter means that it's authorised by the Security Council. It means that the triple lock is met. We have to keep asking them, what is it? What missions do you want to go on that you cannot currently go on because of the triple lock? And I literally just did that with Simon Harris, and he said, oh, we can only send 12 we need to send for more than 12. And then he mentioned a bunch of UN missions. And I was like, no, UN missions, they're like grand. They're within the triple lock. You can get Dáil approval, you can get government approval, and you have UN approval by definition because they're UN missions. And Lisa asked a really, really important question, which is what can we do to stop it? I mean, it kind of depends on which way they go about it. For a while, it looked like they were backing off doing this before the next election. Like, Fianna Fáil stood for election on the basis of saying we're going to keep the triple lock really explicitly. The programme for government says we're going to keep the triple lock. But now they're saying we're going to get rid of it, and they're implicitly saying we don't need a new mandate for that. Even though we were elected on one basis, we can go and do it. And unfortunately, legally, they can. They have a majority in the Dáil. They can try and ram it through. I think we have to kick up a big fuss about that if they try and ram it through. I think we should prepare to have protests about it, try and bring a lot of public pressure to bear to say, really, we should have a referendum on this if you want to go ahead with it. At the very, very least, at least allow there to be a general election. And if you want to propose in your manifesto to get rid of the triple lock, grand, do that. And then people can at least vote on that basis and decide if they want it, that people have a right to have a say in this. That's what we need to do. There have been meetings of the Irish Neutrality League to kind of work out strategy on this kind of stuff. So, yeah. Just think that this is really, really important that we do this. Sorry, just looking at some of the questions. Do I think Simon Harris is better? No, I do not think Simon Harris is better. A general election needs to happen. I absolutely agree with you. Looks like they're going to manage to avoid it for the next year or so. They have to have one by March of next year. But in the meantime, we do have an opportunity, just over 5 weeks' time, local and European elections. It is a chance for people to kick Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the Greens out of the local councils, put in campaigners onto the councils, like People Before Profit candidates, and send an eviction notice to the government to say your time is coming. If we really beat them by enough, if they really get very much hammered, well then it can seriously undermine the government itself. Lynn says, I feel you've turned. You aren't a man of the people like you once were. Do you want to explain that, Lynn? Why do you think that? Thoughts on landlords? I'm against them. Basically, I think that, they don't like you saying this, but landlords fundamentally don't add anything to the economy. They don't add anything to our society. Landlords are parasitical as a class. They just extract money. There's all this talk of, the landlords are going to leave if we tax them too much, etc. But they can't bring their houses with them. You know what I mean? They don't pack them up, put them on a plane and get out. The houses are still there. So the point is that where landlords are leaving, the states will simply buy them up at market rates. And then it's a win-win. If the landlord wants to leave, grand. The tenant gets secure tenure. And now the state has an asset which is going to pay off even more than it costs to buy it over time. What's my thoughts on the EU Migration Pact? I'm absolutely opposed to it. I think it's horrendous what is happening. Really, they're copying the Tory model of sending people to Rwanda. They're basically going to be doing similar things. They're going to have detention centres in Ireland that they're going to put people in, children, when they arrive here. And we put in detention centres, not allowed out to go to school, treating human beings who are fleeing desperate situations in an awful way. Someone said there, you heard me and Richard Boyd Barrett are going off to live in Gaza. We're not. I don't think. I'll check with Richard. But one thing I did want to talk about is the flotilla. So flotilla is it's a thing that happened a number of times. There's been boats to try and break the blockade of Gaza. I was involved in the flotilla in 2011 when I was a member of the European Parliament. And the Israelis tried to sabotage us every which way. So they broke our boat and we couldn't go at one stage. Then another time we were due to leave from Greece and we couldn't go because the Greek authorities withdrew permission from us to leave after Israel put pressure. And then eventually we got to go, but then we're surrounded by Israeli warships and they attempted to sink our boat while we were on it and then boarded our boat and brought us to Israeli prison for a week. But at the moment there's a new flotilla trying to go to bring aid to the people of Gaza. People know basically Israel isn't allowing any aid in. Even Michal Martin was at Rafah 2 weeks ago and said it was criminal. He was pretty blunt about it. And there's a flotilla trying to go at the moment. They're trying to go from Turkey. They were due to set sail on Friday. But again, Israel doing everything they can to stop it. They were flying under the Guinea-Bissau flag. And then at the last minute, Guinea-Bissau asked a bunch of questions and withdrew their flag, said you can't fly under our flag anymore. And when you're sailing a boat, you have to have a flag of a country. So one thing we're going to definitely raise in the Dáil tomorrow is that the Irish government should facilitate them. They should allow the flotilla to fly under the Irish flag. Eamon Ryan has the power to allow that to happen as the Minister for Transport. You know, Micheál Martin says the aid needs to get through, but he also says the aid is being blocked. He also says it's criminal. He says ordinary people in Gaza are being punished. Well, this is something very concrete that we can do. You know, it isn't just about words. It's about action. Tommy asked, do I support Iran? No, in the sense that I'm absolutely opposed to the Iranian regime. I supported the uprising of ordinary people, the women life freedom movements. We raised this in the Dáil repeatedly. There's a current case, there's an activist I'm signing a petition for at the moment in Iran, faced with the death penalty for his participation in that movement. So we're absolute opponents of the theocratic, very right-wing regime in Iran. But we're also obviously against the most reactionary, most right-wing force in the region and most powerful force in the region, which is Israel, backed up by the US. Someone says I'm a US lover. Definitely not a US lover. Again, well, certainly not. I mean, I like some American people, but I don't like certainly the US administration. What do I think about young people not being able to afford an independent space to live in? Yeah, it's horrendous. About 500,000 more at this stage. Young people still living with their parents. It's a thing. You know, when you're out knocking on doors, you meet a lot of their parents kind of giving out in a friendly way about their kids still living with them. It's awful. And people have no prospect, you know. People are faced with either moving out, spending $2,000 a month on rent and never being able to buy their own house, or staying at home trying to save to be able to buy somewhere. It's horrendous. The reason for it's one aspect of the housing crisis, just like the almost 14,000 people in emergency accommodation is another aspect of the housing crisis. The reason we have it is because the government is committed to the market providing housing. Has to be profit in it. They recently got rid of the development levies again, so money into the pockets of big developers. They also do tax breaks for landlords, and they that's their whole project. As opposed to, we say, use public land to build public homes. That's what the councils should be doing. Like South Dublin County Council has sold off public land to private developers, and then they get a small portion of it back for public and social and genuinely affordable housing. All that land should be built for social and affordable housing. That's fundamentally the answer. What can PPP, good question, Emma. What can PPP councillors do on the council that other councillors can't? One thing I'd say is that we're the only party, together with Solidarity, that give a guarantee that we will not be going into coalition, either at government level, national level, or council level, with Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael. We think there needs to be an alternative. A vote for People Before Profit will also send a message to Sinn Féin, to independents, that people want to, and to the Social Democrats, people want to hear a similar message from them. People want a real alternative at the next election. They want a left alternative. The other things that I think People for Profit councillors very much do, even if we don't have left councils, even if we don't have a left majority, is to use them as a platform to fight, to organise people on issues in the local community, like saving our post office, like in Tallaght, to use it to fight, like Madeleine Johansson, who's a councillor on South Dublin County Council, managed to get into the development plan a ban on further data centres, which are sucking up now, like heading towards 30% of our electricity. That was then overturned by the government, so there's an ongoing struggle about that. Or also Madeleine was pushing for, managed to get some success on some vacant properties being compulsorily purchased by the council so they'd be used to house people. What we want to see is have left councils. What left councils would do is use public homes for public land, tax through differential rates, so you can have different rates basically on different types of companies. So rates are they're the only taxes that, the only taxes on businesses that local authorities administer. There's a system you can do to effectively do differential rates. So in South Dublin Council, for example, you could have higher taxes on the likes of Amazon, some of the big pharmaceutical companies, in order to raise revenue, in order then to spend that on housing and invest it in council services. Up Fine Gael. That's a new one. Paul, are PPP trying to implement a universal minimum wage rather than 18 and 19s making different money? Yes, exactly. We introduced a bill 2 years ago now, I think, to get rid of this outrageous situation where young people get paid less. So if you're 18, if you're under 18, you can get 70% of the minimum wage. 18s can get 80%, 19, 90%. It's outrageous. They pay the same price when they go to the shops. Someone asked me, what about the missing children? Yeah, it's horrendous. People will have seen the case of multiple children going missing from the state's care. It seems that most of those children are tragically migrant children and are being lost by the state. I mean, it's really horrendous that it is happening. Sorry, just looking through questions. Thanks, Apple user. Someone earlier at the start was asking about the graffiti near my house. People may have seen that. I don't think we put it on TikTok. But there was Saturday night, Sunday morning, there was Paul Murphy RIP graffiti put up 5 minutes from where I live, which is obviously a death threat. Had a lot of nice messages from people. Appreciate that. Someone asked, how do you have the energy to keep going with the vile threats and intimidation? I guess because if you allow them to intimidate you, then they win, you know? These are people who are doing the dirty work of the 1% of the rich in this country, who want to see ordinary people not uniting against those who are profiting from the housing crisis, which is the big corporate landlords, the private developers, not uniting against those who profit from the health crisis, which is a big private health industry, the likes of Larry Goodman, from those who are responsible for the climate crisis, the big fossil fuel corporations, big agribusiness, but want to have ordinary people divided amongst themselves and people kicking down instead of up. And I think it's vital that we stand together to reject that and to direct our anger upwards at the government and who those of the government represent, as opposed to ordinary people. Someone asked, do you think the solution is to take someone's property? I think if during a housing crisis, if you own multiple properties that you have left vacant for years and allowed to go derelict, I don't think that you have the right to just leave them like that. And in fact, you don't. Legally, the council has the right to buy. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking about seizing them, taking them off you. We're talking about compulsorily purchasing, so giving you market rates for those properties. Because I think society has a right to say, no, we don't think it's okay to have, 50,000 homes vacant for 6 years or more, 160,000 homes in total, when we have a housing crisis in this state, that we think we should act as a society to deal with the housing crisis. Thanks a lot, Taurus girl. Agree. All right, let me look. Why do they leave them vacant? Different reasons. Sometimes they're just allowing them to sit there, hoping, knowing that they will rise in value, and then sell them at a later stage. Sometimes it's just, people who are rich and they don't need to make money out of a property, and they're just happy to leave it there, you know. And I just think people have the rest of society has rights in these circumstances. It isn't just once you own private property, you can do whatever you want with it. There are people who oppose our right to housing bill for that reason. They think that landlords should be able to evict tenants just like that. They think that landlords should be able to increase rents whenever they want with no rent controls. We don't agree with that. We think the right to housing should be in the Constitution. All right. Leon Kavanagh asked, why is Irish not in hotels? That's the Irish are in hotels. Loads of there's thousands and thousands of homeless people in hotels, Leon. I don't know if you haven't noticed that. It's horrendous what is happening. Some people are trying to pretend that asylum seekers are treated well in this country. Asylum seekers are treated even worse than Irish homeless people. And people are saying these should be used for the Irish homeless. Jesus Christ. You want Irish homeless people to be sleeping in dorms with 4, 5, 6 people in one room. It's horrendous how people are treated. It's horrendous how homeless people are treated, and it's horrendous how asylum seekers are treated. We shouldn't pretend that any of them are living in luxury, because they're really, really not. All right. Come here. Thanks, Claire. I do watch your TikToks. I'll just finish this. Would you consider working with Sinn Féin? Your goals are aligned. No more Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael. Yeah, I mean, we do work together on lots of things. Sinn Féin do oppose the trip a lot with us. It was us and Mary Lou McDonald who were raising it today. We want there to be a left government, a government without Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael. We're worried that at the moment Sinn Féin is very much shifting towards the centre in a lot of different ways. They're meeting with businesses. They're saying we're not going to increase corporation tax. Don't worry, nothing significant is going to change. And like that concerns us, because if you're going to actually address the housing crisis, you're going to address the health crisis, address the climate and biodiversity crisis, things need to change in a fundamental way. We need to take on the rich in this country. We need to tax them, and we need to be willing to like nationalise the big corporate landlords, for example. So we're concerned about that, but we give a commitment to people. If there's the opportunity to have a government without Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, we'll vote for that. We'll vote for, as we did previously, Mary Lou McDonald for Taoiseach. And then we would consider joining the government, but only on the basis that, okay, this is a government that is actually going to really stand up to the wealthy and powerful in this country and fight for the kind of socialist change that we need to see. All right, I better run, right? Nice to talk to you all. I will be back next week, presumably. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for all the nice messages. Bye-bye.